Listen, we've all been there. You're cruising through your seed and then you get slammed with this idiot. He decides he wants to use iframes and just waste a ton of time, and you end up losing a seed because of it. But what if I told you we have some rando tech that we can use to help speed up this GR2 fight exponentially? Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Darknessmist, and I'm going to be walking you through how to do the GR2 fight in KH2 Rando. GR2 moves-wise is a pretty simplistic boss, all things considered. He has 4 main attacks that vary depending on which phase of the fight you are in, and understanding how each of these attacks work can help lead you to success. The first one is a scythe throw, which is interruptible, where he throws his scythe at you, trying to stun you or kill you. The second is a circular tornado, where he sucks up all coins and walks towards you, trying to kill you. Unfortunately, he is not hittable during this animation, so you'll just have to deal with it. The third is where he goes up to the chest and starts sucking coins out of it, but you can interrupt this with a reaction command. And the fourth and final one is where he does his head slams on the ground during his final phase. When he's not in his invulnerable knocking coins out of him phase, he will be instead in a phase where he is like GR1. He will do a scythe throw at you occasionally and then just do a teleport. As long as you're not hyper aggressive, these are pretty easy to avoid and get them taken care of. But now that we've talked about all of his basic moves, let's get into boss strategy itself. Before entering the GR2 fight, you need at least one elemental magic, that being a fire, thunder, or blizzard. However, it is recommended that you at least have a thunder and a blizzard at minimum before entering this fight. Fire isn't the most useful tool in this fight, but blizzard and thunder together make this fight incredibly trivial. If you only have one of any of the elemental magics, you'll have to settle for either a more dangerous fight, a slower fight, or an incredibly slow fight. For now, I'm going to assume you have access to one of each of the elemental magics, and we're going to get into how to do this fight from the ground up. At the start of the fight, GR2 will always use the same move on you. He will try to throw his scythe at you while you go over to the right and pick up the coins. After you start picking up the coins, he will try to throw his scythe again, and this is the chance for the follow-up attack. Just before he throws his second scythe, you want to interrupt him with a thunder. This thunder will stun him and cause him to try to throw his scythe at you again. You will repeat this process of thundering him until all his coins have been dropped and you can pick them all up. At this point, you might want to throw a blizzard just to be safe so he doesn't retaliate against you while you're dropping the coins in the box. But it's also okay to just dump your coins into the box, and most of the time he won't hit you. Do keep an eye on his coin meter, because even if you knock out all the coins, sometimes he will pick them up again and you will have to thunder him or blizzard him again to get them out. Once all the coins have been dropped in the box, he'll revert to his GR1 phase, which is pretty simple to deal with. Watch for the scythe throw, you can reflect it if you want the damage out of it, otherwise just wail on him until he transitions into phase 2. Phase 2 will start when you have drained a quarter of his second bar of health. He will teleport to the chest, he will go into his GR2 form, and then he will try to suck up the coins from the chest. The simplest route is to wait for him to start doing his little sucking in animation and make sure you reflect, then do the RC afterwards. While you can technically parry this with an aerial dodge, or you can dodge roll through it or quick run through it if you have good timing, reflect will always be your most safe option and it will allow you to get the RC command much quicker. Now, as you perform the hinder RC, there is one quick note you need to be aware of if you want to do this fight quickly. Most casual players will simply do the hinder command and then wait for GR2 to appear on the ground. However, after throwing the scythe and seeing the coins knocked out of GR2, you can actually target him. So make sure you lock on and then do 2 thunders. Each thunder will knock out 50 coins from GR2. Start moving in to pick up the coins that are on the ground from the RC, and the rest of the coins will rain down from the sky on top of you. This allows you to basically skip an entire phase of GR2 without having to deal with any of the wishy-washy mechanics and the bad RNG that he can provide. GR2 can still be a jerk though. If he decides he spawns close to the coins, he might pick up a few and you will have to knock them out before you can continue into the next phase. Rinse repeat though. Once you have picked up all the coins, dump them in the chest, wail on GR2, then go into phase 3. Phase 3 occurs when he has a little bit left of his second bar of health. Now there are 2 spots you can go to deal with this initial attack in phase 3. You can go and stand in the boxes in the top left corner, or you can go to the bottom right corner and hug near this tree to get away from him. Your party members might still get hit, so I'd still prep a cure or a potion or a mega elixir just to make sure they're up and about so you can pop into forms. Now while this last phase of GR2 can be pretty annoying, there's a simple way to deal with it. If you have access to Master Form, you can easily clear out all 882 coins out of GR2 without him ever being able to do anything. Speedrunners do this with level 1 Master, but you can do this with any level of Master, and it can be a little faster with higher levels because you can spam Thunders out even more. As GR2 prepares for his final slam, you want to go into Master Form. After he performs his final slam, jump off of whatever corner you're going to and get right up next to the chest. Once GR2 fully forms and is about to attack you, simply do Thunders. Make sure you lock on and don't just spam Thunders, you want to wait until you finish each individual Thunder before triggering the next one. This is because Master Form Thunder does 3 different bolts in the air, and you want to preserve your MP to make sure you can still Blizzard him at the end of it. If you just mash Thunders, you might run out of your form, you might run out of MP, and GR2 might get a chance to retaliate against you. Once you have drained all of GR2's 882 coins, simply menu down to your magic menu and do a Blizzard in the middle of your last Thunder. As soon as the Thunder animation finishes, simply cast that Blizzard, GR2 will be stunned, pick up your last bit of coins, and then turn them all in. From here you can just wail on the boss until he dies. This takes GR2 from a multi-minute long fight and kind of an annoyance to around a minute and a half if you have maxed out stats. But sometimes you don't have all the tools that you want to go into this fight. Using a combination of blizzards and fires can be kind of effective, but you will have to deal with that phase 2 of GR2. Combine that with the fact that blizzard doesn't knock out nearly as many coins, and fire allows for GR2 to retaliate as soon as the last bit of the fire goes out, it becomes a bit awkward. Sometimes you might walk into this fight with just a thunder. This makes the fight a little more risky as you can't stun GR2 in any capacity, but you can still get through this fight pretty effectively. But the biggest thing that you might not have access to might be Master Form. In order to compensate for this, I'm going to teach you a couple of other strategies here that can be helpful in dealing with this last phase of GR2. The first of these is using Final Form. For getting the Final Form strat to work, you basically want to do the same thing you did with Master Form. Hop into it as GR2 is about to do his last little slam on the ground. Once you're in Final Form, you want to go up next to the chest, and then you want to do Thunders on the ground. By doing a small circle with Thunders on the ground, GR2 won't have a chance to retaliate, and he will still knock out a ton of coins. Final Form casts down multiple Thunderbolts just like Master Form does, however not all those Thunderbolts are guaranteed to hit GR2. If you are concerned about MP conservation, what you can do is do Jump Thunders here as well to knock out little MP orbs from GR2 from your Keyblades passively hitting him. But if you have an Ether, this is pretty much mitigated and you can simply walk around the chest, spamming Thunders as the animation ends, and then you will be able to finish GR2 off and drain all the coins pretty effectively. It's a little slower than the Master Form strat, but it's still a very effective strat and better than doing it in base Sora form. Speaking of base Sora form, sometimes you might not have access to any forms at all even if you have the tools. What you can do in this instance requires a couple of ethers, but it can still get you through this pretty effectively. If you are concerned about your MP management and don't have forms available to you, I would throw some items on your party members and customize them to Sora attacks so they don't do any damage to GR2. This will ensure that they don't use any of those ethers when they cast their spells, and they will just throw them at you when you get a little bit low. Now on to base Sora GR2. The final phase will start just like all the others. Wait for the last slam, go in, go up next to the chest. The difference here is that you want to wait for GR2 to throw his scythe at you. As he's about to throw his scythe at you, you're going to want to thunder him to interrupt it just like you did in phase 1. From here, you're going to perform a circular rotation around the chest either clockwise or counterclockwise. Each time that GR2 winds up to throw his scythe, you want to move slightly, then cast a thunder, then move, then cast thunder, then move, then cast thunder. This will make sure that you're picking up the coins as they're dropping around him, but you're also just preventing him from doing any of his other attacks against you. Keeping him locked into this loop will allow you to pick up all the coins, drain them from him, and then put them all in the chest without him doing anything against you. There will be moments where you won't be able to move because you're tossing an ether to refill your MP. The biggest thing that can cause this strat to go wrong is losing your MP bar and having to toss 2 ethers. This means GR2 might not get locked in his scythe throwing attack and might do his other attack, which he is immune during. So be very watchful of your MP if you have to perform this strat. After you've systematically knocked out all the coins out of GR2, the very difficult part is going to be actually putting the coins into the chest. What I like to do is I like to stun GR2 until I have officially picked up all the coins, then I want to back away and wait for him to do any of his other attacks and then blizzard him. Another option is that you can wait for him to throw his scythe, do a dodge roll as he throws the scythe at you, then dump all the coins in the chest just before he has a chance to do another attack. This version is significantly more risky and a lot more dangerous, so I don't recommend it unless you're very comfortable with this fight. Once that's done, simply kill GR2 off and you'll have finished the fight. Now these are the fast methods of GR2, however, RNG can not be in your favor. GR2 might pick up some coins and he might do some awful attacks against you that waste your time. The best way to handle these attacks is to simply play it patient, either using thunders or blizzards to stun him in his various animations. If you are feeling afraid, just play a distance away from GR2, wait for an opportunity to get a blizzard off on him, then close the gap, continually casting blizzards to make sure he stays infinitely stunned and you're knocking coins out of him. In the worst case scenario, you don't have a blizzard, you don't have a thunder, this fight can be finished with fire. However, this fight takes forever doing it with base fire, Fyra, or Fyraga regardless. GR2 will run around for an indeterminate amount of time, and then he will just immediately retaliate once that fire goes out. Since there's no way to predict what GR2 is going to do, you're just going to have to deal with that mechanic as it comes and deal with his various attacks. Close the distance, get a fire off, follow from a distance picking up the coins, then back away before he retaliates against you. One other note before we wrap up this fight. There might be some instances where you enter this fight without having an adequate amount of items. In this case, you could rely on trying to get hits on GR2 to refill your MP, but there are some better methods that you can take advantage of. If you have the summon Stitch, you could use him to refill your MP throughout the course of the fight, although you do have to rely on the RNG of him licking your MP bar. This isn't particularly thrilling, but hey, if it works, right? Another method of refilling your MP would actually be to use forms. Sometimes I've walked into this fight only having access to Wisdom or Valor form, but I still use them in this case to refill my MP bar when I get low. The advantage of Wisdom form here is obvious. I can still cast a Thunder and stun GR2 without losing the animation. If I have to use Valor form, I'm going to lose whatever loop I've got going on in the process, but I will refill my MP bar, so it's not the end of the world. The biggest thing required for all of these strats is to make sure that your party members are still alive. This makes one of the worst spells in the game actually useful in this one instance. Having a single Cure or Cura for the final phase of GR2 will be very nice, as it can allow you to resurrect your party members if they go down while GR2 is attacking. This means you can get their idiot butts back up so you can go into Master Form, Final Form, Valor Form, or Wisdom Form if you need to. And all that being said, that's the GR2 fight in a nutshell. GR2 definitely goes down as one of the least favorite fights in the game, especially because of his iframes, but if you know what you're doing, it isn't the worst fight in the world. Don't worry, we're going to be getting to you, Experiment, eventually. But for now, I think that's all we have for today's video. If you did, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, keep an eye out for future videos regarding anything KH2 Rando related and other content as I feel I want to make it. And with that all being said, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon, morning, or evening, depending on where you're at, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye!